At the Navy
Gentlemen, this
ceremony,
mission is of the
the
utmost
hall
importance.
moved with
We must
practiced
execute with precision and unity.
Rows of
Dismissed.
officers rose, then sat in perfect order. Medals caught the light. Flags stood still. The program was flawless until a single chair remained empty. And when everyone sat down, one man did not. A 3-star Admiral stayed on his feet, eyes fixed on the space no one else seemed to notice. Asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more stories about extraordinary people. The ceremony was meant to be routine, a formal recognition of service and sacrifice. The kind of event that followed a script written long before the guests arrived. Senior officers took their places at the front. Junior sailors filled the rows behind them. Families waited with quiet pride. The main character of this story was not expected to be seen at all. Her name was Commander Eliza Rowan, and she was supposed to be sitting in that empty chair. Eliza had spent most of her career doing the work no one applauded. Missions that never made the news. Decisions made in darkness that kept others safe in daylight. She learned early that recognition was a luxury, not a guarantee. On the morning of the ceremony, she stood outside the hall in her dress uniform, reading a message that changed everything. A last-minute directive reassigned her to base security due to an unresolved clearance review. It was a polite way of saying she was needed elsewhere and should not ask questions. She did not argue. She never did. Eliza turned away from the hall and walked to the perimeter, taking a post where she could see the flags from a distance. She told herself it did not matter. The ceremony would continue without her. It always did. What she did not know was that her absence would become the most powerful moment of the day. Inside the hall, the master of ceremonies welcomed the guests and asked everyone to be seated. Chairs slid back in unison. The room settled. Everyone sat down except Admiral Thomas Hawley. He had been invited as a formality, a respected figure nearing the end of his service. Few knew how closely he followed the details. Fewer still knew the history he shared with the missing commander. Hall scanned the front row and saw the empty chair immediately. His expression changed, not with anger, but with certainty. He remained standing. A ripple of confusion spread. A junior officer leaned toward him and whispered that the ceremony had begun. Hawley did not respond. He looked at the program, then at the chair again, then slowly shook his head. Years earlier, in a remote operation that never received a name, Hawley had been the ranking officer facing an impossible decision. A task force was pinned down, communications failing, extraction compromised. The plan on paper was collapsing. Eliza Rowan, then a lieutenant commander, had stepped forward with an alternative that broke protocol but saved lives. She coordinated a staggered withdrawal, rerouted assets, and personally stayed behind to ensure no one was left. Hawley never forgot the calm in her voice or the precision of her choices. He also never forgot how the credit went elsewhere. As the hall waited, the master of ceremonies hesitated. The script did not include this moment. Hawley took a step forward and spoke clearly, his voice steady and firm. He said he would not sit until Commander Rowan took her seat. A murmur moved through the room. Some glanced around, others checked the program. Few recognized the name. An aide hurried to the side of the stage and whispered urgently. The master of ceremonies nodded, then addressed the room with a practiced smile that could not hide the tension. He said there had been a minor delay and asked for patience. Hall remained standing, hands clasped behind his back, gaze unwavering. Outside, Eliza continued her watch, unaware of what was unfolding. She observed the perimeter, noting small details, doing the job she had been assigned. She had learned to accept reassignment without resentment. Service was service. Still, a quiet weight pressed on her chest as she heard applause from inside the hall and knew it was not for her. Inside, patience thinned. Senior officers shifted in their seats. The empty chairs seemed to grow larger with each passing second. Hawley turned to the audience and spoke again, this time with a story. He spoke of leadership not as rank, but as responsibility. He spoke of courage that does not seek attention. He spoke of a commander who once refused extraction until the last sailor was accounted for. Recognition spread slowly. Heads turned. Whispers became understanding. The name on the program meant something now. The master of ceremonies received another message, then another. Finally, he stepped aside and addressed the hall with honesty. He said Commander Rowan had been reassigned moments before the ceremony and was currently on duty. Hawley did not sit. He said ceremonies existed to honor service, and service did not stop at the door. He asked that Commander Rowan be invited inside. Not summoned. Invited. A runner was dispatched. Outside, Eliza saw the approach and listened as the message was delivered. She hesitated, not from doubt, but from habit. Duty came first. Then she was told the Admiral was still standing, that the ceremony had paused, that the room was waiting. She walked back toward the hall, each step measured, each breath steady. When she entered, the room rose again, this time without instruction. Eliza stopped, surprised by the sight. The empty chair waited for her. Hawley nodded once, a small gesture heavy with meaning. Only when Eliza took her seat did the Admiral sit down. The ceremony resumed, but something had changed. The scripted words now carried weight. The applause felt earned. When Eliza's name was finally spoken, it was not for a single act, but for a pattern of service that had shaped countless outcomes. Afterward, Hawley spoke with her briefly. He did not praise her. He thanked her. He said the Navy needed more reminders of what mattered. Eliza replied that she had simply done her job. Hawley smiled and said that was exactly the point. As the hall emptied and the flags were lowered, the lesson lingered. Honor is not always about who is present. Sometimes it is about who is missing and why. Leadership is not proven by sitting comfortably when the program tells you to, but by standing when something is wrong. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.